Alright, so this happened just a couple of weeks ago and I still get freaked out just thinking about it. I've been hiking all my life and I've never had anything like this happen to me before. I was just looking for a relaxing day, but I swear I have no idea what I stumbled into that afternoon. It was a crisp Saturday afternoon in early October. I had planned this solo hike to clear my mind and enjoy some solitude in nature. I always loved the tranquility of national parks, and this one was known for its beautiful trails and serene environment. I arrived at the park around 4 p.m., parked my car near the trailhead, and grabbed my backpack filled with the usual essentials: water, snacks, a map, and my camera. The trail I chose was a bit challenging, winding through dense forest areas with a mix of towering pines and vibrant autumn foliage. The sun was still shining brightly, casting long shadows on the path ahead. I started off with a steady pace, enjoying the sounds of rustling leaves and the occasional chirping of birds. It was the perfect escape from the hustle and bustle of everyday life. About few hours into the hike, I realized I had lost track of time. The daylight was starting to fade and the temperature was dropping. I checked my watch and saw that it was already getting late, closer to 7 p.m. I decided it was best to head back before it got too dark. As I turned around, I noticed that the trail seemed different somehow. The trees felt denser, and the path wasn't as clearly marked as it had been going in. I started retracing my steps, but it wasn't long before I realized I was off the main trail. I shrugged it off, thinking I just needed to concentrate more, but a nagging feeling in the pit of my stomach told me something wasn't right. The forest around me was becoming eerily quiet, almost too quiet. No birds, no insects, just the sound of my footsteps crouching on the fallen leaves. As I continued, I began to notice strange objects scattered around the path. At first, it was small things: a forgotten hat, an old backpack, a pair of muddy boots. I picked up a water bottle and looked around, trying to see if anyone else was nearby, but the area was deserted. My heart started to race a little, but I tried to shake it off, convincing myself that these items belonged to other hikers who had lost their way. About 30 minutes into going back, the sky had almost completely darkened and the temperature had dropped significantly. I pulled out my map, trying to find my way back to the trailhead, but everything looked different in the fading light. The landmarks I had passed earlier were nowhere to be seen. Panic started to set in as I realized I might be truly lost. I decided to keep moving, hoping to find a familiar path or some sign of civilization. That's when I heard it. A faint chanting coming from deeper within the forest. It was low and rhythmic, almost like a song, but without any discernible words. I froze for a moment, trying to locate the source of the sound. The chanting seemed to be moving around me, coming from all directions at once. I tried to stay calm and rationalize what I was hearing. Maybe it was a group of hikers having a late night gathering or some kind of outdoor event. But the way the sound echoed through the trees felt off, unsettling even. I quickened my pace, hoping to distance myself from the noise. As I walked, the chanting grew louder, and I began to see more strange objects along the way. Symbols etched into the tree trunks, bizarre totems made from sticks and stones, and more personal items left haphazardly on the ground. My anxiety was through the roof now. I was tired, cold, and genuinely scared. The idea of encountering someone with bad intentions crossed my mind more than once. And then I came across something that stopped me cold. There was a large tree in the middle of a small clearing, and hanging from one of its branches was an old, beat-up backpack. It looked like it had been there for a while, maybe months. I don't know why, but something about it was incredibly unsettling. There was no reason for a backpack to be hanging up there like that. I thought about grabbing it, maybe checking for a name or ID, but I couldn't bring myself to get any closer. It just felt wrong, like I was seeing something I shouldn't. I was practically jogging by this point, not even caring about where I was going. I just wanted to get away from whatever was out there. And then I noticed more of those stick and bone arrangements scattered along the forest floor every feet. Some of them were larger, with even more bones and other objects I couldn't make out in the dim light. It felt like I was walking through some kind of twisted art gallery in the middle of the woods. The chanting was louder now, closer. I couldn't understand any words, but it had this rhythmic, hypnotic quality that made my head feel fuzzy. I kept glancing over my shoulder, half expecting to see someone following me, but there was nothing, just trees and shadows. Finally, I saw a faint glow through the trees overhead. I thought it might be the parking lot, maybe a light near my car, and I felt a surge of relief. I practically ran toward it, not caring about the branches scratching my arms or the roots trying to trip me up. But as I got closer, I realized the light wasn't coming from a building or a street lamp. It was a small fire just off in another small clearing. I stopped, crouching down behind a tree to get a better look. Around the fire were these figures. They were wearing these dark robes with hoods pulled up over their heads, and they each held some kind of staff or palm. They were chanting in low voices, all in unison, facing the fire. I couldn't make out any faces, just shadows under the hoods, but they were swaying slightly, like they were in a trance. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it would give me away. I knew I couldn't stay there, but I couldn't bring myself to move either. I just watched, hoping they wouldn't notice me, praying they'd finish whatever they were doing and leave. But then one of them stopped chanting and turned, looking straight in my direction. I don't know if he actually saw me, but I wasn't about to stick around to find out. I took off running in the opposite direction, not even caring about making noise at that point. Branches whipped against my face, and I stumbled a few times, but I just kept going. I could still hear the chanting behind me, fading in and out, and it only made me run faster. I didn't stop until I reached my car, which I had somehow managed to keep sight of in the dense forest. I fumbled with the keys and my hands trembling, and finally managed to unlock the door. I dove inside, slammed the door shut, and locked it just as I heard the figures reach the edge of the forest. Breathing heavily, I reached for the ignition and turned it on. As the headlights illuminated the interior of the car, I glanced up and saw them standing there. Those same figures in robes and masks, now clearly visible in the beam of my headlights. They stood there motionless, just watching me from the darkness. Without a second thought, I slammed my foot on the gas and sped out of the parking lot, not daring to look back. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might burst out of my chest. I didn't stop driving until I reached the safety of my neighborhood, where the streetlights offered a sense of normalcy and protection. I haven't been back to that national park since. I reported the incident to the authorities, but they didn't find any concrete evidence or explanation for what I experienced. They suggested I might have stumbled upon some private gathering, but I know what I saw. Those figures in robes and masks, they weren't just random people. There's something deeply unsettling about what was happening in that forest that night. If you're planning to explore nature's beauty, please stay on the marked trails, be aware of your surroundings, and trust your instincts. Sometimes it's better to turn back before things get too weird or dangerous. I just hope no one else has to go through what I did.